Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. One of the chiefs at the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations is speaking out against their fellow FSIN chiefs. Last week, Indigenous Services Canada and KPMG released a summary of their forensic audit into the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations. This week, after a long silence, the FSIN responded. But FSIN 4th Vice Chief Craig McCallum said he could not in good conscience stand behind the statement released by FSIN this week. On Thursday, McCallum released a letter to First Nation chiefs across the province. He said he wasn't buying what the FSIN was saying in the statement they released Wednesday. In that statement, the FSIN said the audit into $34.2 million over a 5-year period was baseless, was subject to unreasonably tight deadlines, and ignored properly approved transactions. The FSIN claimed they asked for a full copy of the audit but never got it. Indigenous Services Canada told APTN they have no record of that request. McCallum says that only transparency, humility, and listening to the wisdom of Indigenous people can heal the wounds caused by secrecy surrounding the audit. FSIN Chief Bobby Cameron has not spoken publicly on the audit. The Nahanni Must Go protest rally outside the Manitoba legislature Wednesday afternoon heated up when counter-protesters showed up. As APTN's Sav Jones reports, the rally comes on the heels of smashed windows and fire bombings at the minister's constituency office over the past few weeks.
Protesters rallied for the resignation of Manitoba Cabinet Minister Nahanni Fontaine on Wednesday, the day after her constituency office was firebombed. Roughly 50 people came out to the Manitoba legislature. Some said Fontaine doesn't advocate for everyone in Manitoba. Protester Colin Watson is a former Canadian Armed Forces crewman. He's also a politician with the People's Party of Canada. He read messages between him and Fontaine from earlier this year.
She replies saying, "Take a deep breath, little guy." Oh, is that how you talk to your ex-military? Is that how you talk to Métis, wounded ex-military folks that serve their country?
The Nahanni Must Go rally was planned after Fontaine shared a post from an Instagram user last month. The post condemned American right-wing activist Charlie Kirk the day after he was assassinated. An online petition calling for her removal currently has just under 10,000 signatures. A couple dozen counter-protesters showed up to support Fontaine.
Every fiber in my body just willed me to be here.
Casey Abraham says there is a strong political divide in the province.
Like especially with Nahanni's office being burned and Bernadette's being damaged the days before. I mean, that just proves how much divide there is in this province, and it shouldn't be that way.
One protester tried to speak with the Fontaine supporters ahead of the rally speeches, but was met with turned backs. Speaker Max Gnest referred to Fontaine as evil and directed his anger towards her supporters interrupting the rally.
These people are freaks. What you're seeing here is uncivilized, barbaric behavior. Do you hear that microphone screeching? That's some lady yelling into a mic. What is that behavior? That is beyond unhuman.
Barb Guimond, a longtime advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous people, sat between both sides. She says she doesn't agree with the views of the Nahanni Must Go rally, but does believe Fontaine isn't fit for the ministerial position.
I don't condone hate, I don't condone violence, I don't condone the fact that her building was destroyed. But Nahanni should work with all people. And she has been ignoring the families that she's supposed to be working for. And she doesn't. And she says she's inclusive, but she's not. She leaves out certain families from MIW, and yes, I believe she should step down.
Inside the legislative building, Premier Wabkanu called the Nahanni Must Go protesters, quote, goofballs. He says the attacks against Fontaine and MLA Bernadette Smith's offices seem targeted.
Recently, there was a protest outside of my constituency office. It was 300 people, I think one of the outlets reported, but nobody thought to light a match. So it does seem like there's a gender angle at work here. And, you know, this happening on September 30th, this happening to the first two Indigenous women appointed to Manitoba's cabinet, it seems like there's an Indigenous angle to this as well.
There is no known correlation between the Nahanni Must Go protesters and the vandalism affecting Smith and Fontaine. Early Thursday, Fontaine spoke out about the firebombing for the first time at an unrelated event.
It's not something that's just over in a couple of days. This is something that we're going to carry with us for the rest of our lives.
She says these incidents aren't just an attack on her and Smith, but an attack on community.
We worked hard to be here. We continue to work hard for our responsibilities, for our departments, for our communities, for our relatives. And no amount of attacks will ever push us out of this.
Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
When it comes to protecting water, a First Nation in Southern Ontario is stepping it up a notch. Alderville First Nation is looking at legal personhood initiative as a way to speak for the water. To date, the Magpie River in Quebec is the only body of water in Canada that has the right to be protected. With more, here's Annette Francis.
This small group of water walkers are here to show their support in a plan of action to better protect Rice Lake. It is home to the Mississauga community of Alderville First Nation, which is located on its southern shores. Chief Tanner Simpson says this lake has been the breadbasket for generations, but now it's in trouble.
It's seen an influx of invasive species, a lot of sea plants have come in that are invasive, and they're squeezing the oxygen out of the water. We're getting a buildup of excess nutrients from the nutrients coming off of the farm systems. So I saw that as something that we could make a difference in.
Simpson says the idea of legal personhood came about when a local mayor suggested he look into it. It means the lake would have the same legal rights as a person. For example, the right to be protected from such harms as pollution.
The precedence was set by the Magpie River in Quebec. And this was an Indigenous-led, First Nation-led project where they achieved legal personhood status for the Magpie River. And this was a pristine river system that they wanted to protect from future development. Our situation is slightly different because Rice Lake is in need of help. It's not pristine the way it used to be.
Alderville councillor Cassie McEwen grew up on Rice Lake. She's seen drastic changes in her lifetime. She says recognizing that the lake has a right to be protected is essential to all aspects of life.
I'm 31 years old, and you know, there's a lot less frogs. We used to look for frogs in the ditches, and there's a lot less like amphibians. There's barely any bullfrogs anymore. We used to have like these really big bullfrogs, and I can remember hearing them. And this year, like, I haven't even seen one. So there's the species are. The biodiversity is going down, and invasive species are taking over.
As the water walk ends, another event is scheduled when renowned Cree actor Tom Jackson hosts a Truth and Reconciliation event. He will match donations, and all proceeds will go to the Rice Lake Personhood Initiative.
Chief Simpson said, well, we're just starting to put life back in our waters. We're starting to get the rice back where there was an abundance of it. And now it's just what we have been able to restore. And I said, what's that? And he explained to me that it was giving legal rights to call the water human. and to treat the water like a human. Water is our life's blood.
According to Simpson, in an effort to gain allies, there will be many more discussions about the initiative with local stakeholders. He says it could take a year or two to gain legal personhood, depending on the hurdles ahead. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Alderville, First Nation.
Time for a quick break, and then our Truth and Politics panel will be here to weigh in on the latest with the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations audit. Stick around. Welcome back. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations in Saskatchewan has broken its silence on the forensic audit of its finances. As you've been hearing, the Indigenous Services Canada auditing firm KPMG found $34 million in questionable spending. In a statement from the organization that represents more than 70 First Nations in Saskatchewan, says it has faced unwarranted attacks in relation to the audit. For more, our Truth and Politics panel is here. Jennifer Leywitz is the CEO of Pusquash Strategies, and Niigaan Sinclair is a columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press. Jennifer, Niigaan, great to have you with us. Niigaan, we'll start with you. Do you feel the response by the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations to the tens of millions in questionable spending has extinguished concerns that have been raised?
There's two typical responses when there's questionable or questions about First Nations organizations or governments. They'll often claim sovereignty, meaning we have a right to control our own finances, and therefore no one should tell us what to do or how to do it or how to administrate or so on. And then the second is to just not answer any questions. And so what we've got is sort of a mixture of the two, and we've got a real crisis on our hands in that if you're not willing to answer questions and go under the veil or the banner of that you don't have to, it's really problematic. It's really led to what it will be ultimately a question around ethics, around morality within the organization, integrity, and that's not good for anyone.
Jennifer, we're just getting a statement from the fourth Vice Chief of the FSIN, Craig McCallum, who's only been in office for 5 months. He's saying he cannot in good conscience stand behind the statement released by FSIN. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I was just sent that letter as well. It seems like it went out to leadership sometime early this morning and is now being circulated amongst pretty much everybody from my understanding. I think it's really telling that we're starting to see, a pattern here where, you know, we've seen female leaders in the past that have left the organization not on good terms. And now we're also seeing that same type of breakaway from young leadership. It appears that some of the executive on the FSIN appear to be almost like Fort Knox. It seems quite cliquey. I have a lot of questions for fourth Vice Chief Craig McCallum now. Did he know the statement was coming out? His statement was very much on the polar opposite end of the take that FSIN is having, where there was no accountability taken. There wasn't even the flowery statement that some governments give of we'll work to do better. It was just not at all acknowledging this. And I think people need to also realize that we have not even heard from the FSIN executive in any capacity since this has all came out. They have not faced any questions. They have not done a press conference. Nobody even knows, I think, where they are. So this is very, very concerning. And I think this letter just further raises those alarm bells.
Niigaan, what does it say to you that an elected official at FSIN is raising concerns about the actions of the FSIN?
Well, it resounds all too often to the same story that is very painful for those of us who want to argue for, defend, and then, of course, try to put forward notions of Indigenous sovereignty. When you see just a general lack of accountability and then whistleblowers within the organization coming out, or this isn't quite a whistleblower situation, but it certainly is one in which it was like a wasn't me kind of situation, that's really problematic because what it tells you is there's some dysfunction in the organization from almost the beginning, from anyone in his involvement, and therefore the answers are often being found too late after the fact, and usually then it's all about covering your own behind in these kinds of situations, trying to say, I wasn't involved with this, and pointing fingers all in the inside of the organization. All of that is poison. And for those of us who are constantly, continually saying, let's look to First Nations governments who can make their own decisions, it tells you two things. One is these large-scale organizations just seem to be dysfunctional over and over again. How many times do we have the same conversation about the Assembly of First Nations and the forcible removal of then National Chief Roseanne Archibald? Mm-hmm. And then secondly is it really tells you that there's a human resource problem, also some concerning, perhaps more nefarious things.
Jennifer, the FSIN in its statement says that it's facing unwarranted attacks that are contributing to heightened racial tensions and perpetrating negative stereotypes. Do you think, though, you touched on this, is it time they come out and speak publicly, meet with the media?
Absolutely. Like, you know what they say, and it's pretty much comms 101, control the narrative or it'll control you. And this is an organization that has not been at all even facilitating a narrative. No one has heard from them. We get this statement that comes out swinging yesterday saying, you know, we did nothing wrong, this is a tax, and then a 10-page fact sheet. But, you know, like I said, there could have been even a little statement of like, we'll you know, bring more accountability internally. We'll make sure our systems are strong, because they had admitted themselves that there were clerical errors. There were things that went wrong that should have never happened to begin with. They could have at least thrown a bone that they were attempting to fix some of this. But I do agree that I think, you know, we've been hearing about this far too often, and I think the responsibility falls back not just on us, but also the leadership that continue to support these types of organizations. We're the ones that have to hold them accountable, so we have to make sure that our leadership also understands that role. But it just appears to be a gigantic mess, and I don't see our way out of this until we start recognizing the role that we're all playing. And I don't think it's an attack to hold any governing bodies accountable in any way, because they're power structures at the end of the day.
Well, we're going to see our way out of this conversation and talk about the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation over on the podcast, but we'll leave it there. Thanks to you both.
You betcha.
Thanks.
Bear Grease the Musical just recently wrapped up a huge run in Winnipeg. We'll bring you that story and more after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And Rick Wilson shared this amazing photo of the Northern Lights as seen from Norway House Cree Nation in northern Manitoba 2 nights ago. Everyone was saying they were really dancing. For the chance to be our next photo of the day, you can send your pictures to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, sun's out and 18 for Charlottetown and Halifax. 12 with showers in Kuujjuaq, 12 and sunny in Nain, 24 under sunny skies in Montreal, 18 and cloudy in Val-d'Or. Sunny and 24 for Sault Ste. Marie, cloudy and 19 for North Bay. 21 in Thunder Bay, 17 in Sioux Lookout. Cloudy and 14 for Thompson and God's Lake, 16 in the Pas. Showers and 24 in Winnipeg, 17 with rain in Dauphin. Showers and 15 in Regina, sun's out and 20 in Saskatoon. 20 with the sun out in Meadow Lake, 14 in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, showers and 12 in High Level, cloudy and 15 in Fort Chipewyan. 20 in Edmonton, sunny and 21 in Lethbridge. 15 in Vancouver, cloudy and 16 for Kamloops. 12 in Prince George, plus 4 in Dease Lake. 2 above with snow in Old Crow, 7 in Whitehorse. 10 in Yellowknife, plus 5 in Norman Wells. -2 in Sax Harbor with snow, flurries and plus 2 in Paulituck. 6 in Chesterfield, 7 in Baker Lake. -9 in Resolute, 2 in Joe Haven. Bear Grease is an indigenized version of the hit musical Grease. The production has just finished its off-Broadway run in New York City over the past 2 months. The all-Indigenous cast just completed their first stop back on the road across Canada, in Winnipeg, with 2 sold-out shows. Julia Ross spoke with some of the Greasers.
Tell me more, can't you pay no stitch? Tell me more, watch Grease. And Summer Lovin' came on, and he looks at me and goes, Summer snagging had me a blast. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Summer snagging happened so fast. And then he goes, I met a girl, she's Enoch Cree. And I went, I met a boy, he's not related to me. And we started laughing, and it was hilarious. And we said, wouldn't it be amazing if there was an Indigenous version of Grease?
Crystal Lightning and her husband Cloud created Bear Grease the musical in their basement during the pandemic. The production was originally planned to have a short run at the Edmonton Fringe Festival, but audiences wanted more.
Ani, Tanza, hello, my name is Amy Gavash. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I am a Bear Grease lover, as you can see. Big, beautiful pink auntie.
Bear Grease was performing off-Broadway in New York City for over 2 months, and after a short break, the cast is back on the road now performing across Canada. The first stop on their tour was Winnipeg, with 2 sold-out shows at the Burton Cummings Theatre.
Starting in New York to coming to my hometown was, amazing. We did about 2 months in New York. It was the most amazing experience, different crowd every night performing.
Mikey Harris is from Saugeen First Nation and has been starring as Butta in Bear Grease.
Be able to tell people I'm from Saugeen First Nation in New York City, just a little res kid, living in New York on Broadway and just down the street from all these huge musicals and where all these stars are, man, and just I really ripped hard for Manitoba and my family and where I'm from and the dance, so it's really a huge honor and I'm blessed I can do it.
As part of the indigenizing process of Grease, Harris incorporated jigging into the show, with Bear Grease Lightning as a standout number.
It's my favorite section because I get to put jigging in there. And we're taking jigging across the world, I guess, with the Bear Grease Lightning. And yesterday when I came up there, I couldn't even hear the music. That's how loud it was.
Bear Grease features a roundy-style version of Hopelessly Devoted to You. A song sung in Cree, Indigenous fashion, beadwork, humor, and language.
Bear Grease is the Indigenous version of Grease. So we took the classic 1978 musical and we just indigenized it through fashion, language, our humor, and just kind of made it very specific. Plugged in Indigenous actors, and then instead of them wearing poodle skirts, we put bears and ribbons on it. So it's still an A-line skirt. We still have, the crinoline underneath. It's like, what if we never were colonized? This is what it would look like.
You can follow Bear Grease behind the scenes on social media and see them perform as they complete their Canadian tour with their next stop in the East Coast. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
I was lucky to catch the show in Winnipeg 2 years ago, thankfully, because tickets went fast this time around. But if Bear Grease is coming to a place near you, you should definitely check it out. It's a blast. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. You can find more over on our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy McGuitch. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.